Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Samuel Akem here, and I'm back with another one. Appreciate you guys for tapping into yet another Akem'S analysis. I got a great video for you guys today. Every Big Sky team has a heart, and so do we. L&M Fine Jewelry is Montana-owned, family-run, and proud to support the same communities that pack the stadium every Saturday. When you're ready to celebrate life's big moments, trust a jeweler with hometown roots and high-end style. Located on American Way in Missoula and Main Street in Kalispell. L&M Fine Jewelry is the official jeweler of Akem'S analysis. Michael and Landy, they do a phenomenal job taking care of their customers and people who come in there and patronize their business. They do a phenomenal job. Please go check them out. L&M Fine Jewelry on American Way in Missoula and Main Street in Kalispell, your diamond destination. It was a phenomenal week in college football. A lot of potential upsets over the weekend, and I wanted to talk about one game or the top 8 in particular. So North Dakota State and Illinois State played. It was a close game. North Dakota State was very close to getting their first loss of the season, but they ended up figuring things out. South Dakota State versus Youngstown State, very close game. Some question marks about South Dakota State potentially. Chase Mason did not play his best game. Tarleton State played a shootout against Southern Utah. Obviously, we know Southern Utah can run the ball, but that was a shootout. Montana versus Idaho State came down to a 10-point game in the fourth quarter. Montana was able to come back and get the victory. Montana State versus Northern Arizona was probably the most secure game out of all the top 8 teams in the country. Then you got UC Davis versus Cal Poly. They played a close game. It was closer towards the end than what the score dictates, but I think they more so won by 2 scores. Cal Poly really got a trash time touchdown at the end, and then Brown beating Rhode Island at home. Just a lot of big games, a lot of close games, not necessarily losses, but a lot of big games. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about Montana State versus NAU. We'll break that game down. We're going to talk about UC Davis versus Cal Poly. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about NDSU versus Illinois State. And then lastly, we'll talk about South Dakota State versus Youngstown State, some of the top teams in the country and some of the top games in the country this weekend. And then at the end, I got some no-huddle notes that I'm going to talk about. And then we will look ahead to see what big games are happening in week 7 of FCS football. But a lot of good things are happening in FCS football. A lot of things happening in college football. And we are getting into the meat and potatoes of the season. And there's a lot to talk about, a lot of thoughts, a lot of words. So make sure you guys hit the like, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, make sure you guys leave me a comment down below, and we will get straight into it. Okay, first things first, we got Montana State versus Northern Arizona, and the Bobcats look good, man. The Bobcats look good. Offense is looking very balanced. Defense is looking dominant. They have the ability to rush the passer. Justin Lamson is playing efficient. He's playing well enough for them to get wins. Taco Dowler is a difference maker. Ty Pennington did not look very great yesterday. The Northern Arizona offense did not look very great yesterday. They were not able to move the ball. I think they had 296 total yards of offense, which is not where they have been throughout the first half of this season. Montana State was really able to stymie their offense, stymie Ty Pennington. They were able to get to the quarterback, all of the things. Kenneth Iden, after starting the season off slow, showed up yesterday, man. 7 total tackles, 2 solo, half a sack, 2.5 tackles for loss, and a QB hurry. Kobe Katzis for NAU struggled a lot for me yesterday. You know, a lot of drops, a lot of uncharacteristic plays from him. You know, he's kind of been that number 1 receiver at NAU, and he's kind of been the player that they leaned on, and he really did not show up yesterday. So that's something that I was keyed into. But the main thing for this conversation, the main conversation about this Montana State team is the defense. Their defense has been balling out. Their defense has been holding teams. I mean, I have said it throughout the first few weeks of this season. I'm going to continue to say it. This Montana State team is going to win games because of their defense. I mean, their offense is doing enough. Their offense is putting up points. Their offense is balanced, all of that stuff. But I think in the end, when the rubber meets the road, when things get tough in the playoffs, I believe this Bobcat squad is going to win because of their defense. And I think that's how they need to play. You look at the numbers yesterday, total offense, NAU had 296 yards. NAU was held to only 86 yards on the ground. Now, Do I believe that NAU has necessarily been a super strong rushing team as they were last year? Not necessarily, but they've been able to do it. They've been able to be successful on the ground, but they weren't able to do that yesterday. And I think that's what led to Ty Pennington completing 60% of his passes. He was 28 for 47, 210 yards, no passing touchdowns, and 1 interception. So, I mean, I think that's what you see when you get into a game like this. It's like, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Our quarterback, our run game isn't there. We got to lean on our quarterback's arm. Now, he has been lighting things up early on in the season. He had a 1 week where he was Big Sky Player of the Week, Offensive Player of the Week, but I don't think you can do that I don't think you can do that against this Montana State defense. They're very sound. They rush the passer. They stop the run, and they play viciously, man. They play with an aggression. They play with a mentality that is a dominant mentality, and they want to impose their will on you. And Montana State did that to a T. Justin Lamson, 13 for 19, 68% completion percentage, 213 yards, 2 touchdowns. On the ground, he had 7 carries, 35 yards, and a touchdown, 5 yards per carry. It was good. And honestly, the Montana State offense, I feel like, is still a little up and down. Early on in that game, they really could not figure things out. What really gave them a spark in that game was a 90-yard punt return touchdown by Taco Dowler. That really sparked things offensively for them. I think that gave them a 2-score lead at the time, or that might have been the touchdown that got them tied 7-7, because NAU scored first. They were down 7-0, and then I think Taco Dowler took the punt back to make it 7-7, or maybe, yeah, he took the punt back, and then Justin Lamson had a beautiful pass to Jabez Woods over the top on a post, and that was what put them up 14-7, and that was what really opened up the game. But for them offensively, they were balanced. 221 passing yards, 196 rushing yards. They mentioned a couple of weeks ago a phenomenal article from Victor Flores. They said they wanted to be more balanced during this season, and they have shown that. They are balanced. I think also the need to be balanced is a little more out of necessity than it is out of want to. Obviously, you don't have Tommy Mellott anymore. Obviously, I don't think their offensive line is as good as they have been in past seasons. So we're not going to be able to run the ball as successfully as we have in last season. So what do we need to do? We need to pass the ball more. We need to make this a more balanced offense. And on the opposite side of things, we need to lean on our defense. I think in terms of carving out an identity, when you look at a team and say, okay, what is this team's identity? I think the Montana State team's identity is defense. They are going to win on defense, and their identity is showing through and through every time you watch them play. Taco Dowler is absolutely a difference maker. 7 touches in this game, 149 all-purpose yards, 1 touchdown, and like I mentioned, that 90-yard punt return touchdown, which was a school record at Montana State. Taco Dowler, anytime, any way you can get this guy the ball, get him the ball. But like I said, not to finish my point about the Montana State offense, they have been a little up and down. I think they have been a little up and down. I think at times they look really good. I think at times, they've struggled. Now, the thing that shows you that they can do it is they still put up 34 points. How good is the NAU defense? I don't know how good the NAU defense is. I think the big test for this Montana State squad was against South Dakota State. They put up 17 points in regulation. They ended up putting up 24 because they lost that game 30-24. That was probably the best defense they've played so far this season. And, they looked up and down. They were able to run the ball better than, they have in other games against that South Dakota State football squad. But passing the ball over the top was a little up and down. So, Montana State has won the teams that beat the teams that you put in front of them. They've lost 1 ranked game against South Dakota State, but they are still a top team in the Big Sky Conference, and they are still a top team in the country. And they're somebody who people need to be paying attention to. People do not need to sleep on this squad. They are very dominant. They are very physical, and they do things right. Coach Vegan is coaching them the right way. And obviously, I feel like this team has a certain amount of confidence since they started off the season 0-2. They've rattled off 4 straight wins. So the confidence for this team just starts to build and build and build and build with every win, with every game, with every performance. I think things just get better and better and better for Montana State. So I'm very impressed with where they are. I thought it was a very impressive win. They got their first ranked win yesterday. And they play Idaho State coming up this week. I'll be very interested to see what that game looks like. Obviously, because we saw what Idaho State just looked like against Montana, but obviously they were at home. And they played in the dome, and Jordan Cook got a week to get his legs underneath him, and then he's fully healthy. I mean, I don't know if I would say fully healthy, but he's feeling good. And I'll be interested to see what he looks like against Montana State on the road in Bozeman. You know, will he be able to do the same things that he did in the dome? What will the weather be like? Will it be cold outside? I mean, weather plays a huge factor in the passing game. When you're playing in a dome, you can throw it all over the place. Things are different when you get outside and you get in the elements. But phenomenal performance from Montana State. They get their first ranked win of the season. I think since losing to South Dakota State, I think they've looked better and better. Better and better and better and better and better, and they just continue to improve. So we're getting into the thick of the conference season. We'll get a lot of answers on who these teams are as we go forward, but as it currently stands, Montana State is still a top 5 team. Should be a top 5 team on everybody's bracket, on everybody's poll, and they should be a team that people should fear, honestly. I mean, now one thing that is interesting to me about this Montana State team is, although they're still, you know, they're balanced in the run game, balanced in the pass game, man, like Adam Jones, his I don't even want to call it a fall off, but his lack of ability to get things going in the run game, they get him involved in the pass game, which where I think he is best at times is outside of the pocket, catching swing routes, catching flat routes, you know, catching those things on the outside. I think that's what he does at a high level. From the running back position, it just seems like he's not the same as he was last year. And one reason why I think Adam Jones maybe isn't the same as he was last year is because of their offensive line. You know, the offensive line shuffling. You know, I don't think the offensive line is as solidified as it was last year. And with it not being as solidified as it was last year, I don't think it's as effective as it was last year. I mean, there were some gaping holes that Marcus Weir, and Cole Sane and Fleischman and all of those guys on that Montana State offensive line were able to create last year. You're just not seeing that same thing this year. Now, they're still getting gashes. Julius Davis is a monster, and he was talking his talk yesterday to the NAU defense. He had all the time in the world for them yesterday. So I love the mentality that they bring to the table, but I do question how good they can run the ball against a team that is really, really good at stopping the run, like Idaho State. Now, I don't know if it was a concerted effort against Montana just to stop Eli Gilman, but Idaho State was very, very good at stopping the run yesterday. They did a good job. I got the numbers right in front of me because I still have it pulled up from talking with Keenan. They only gave up 118 rushing yards to against Montana yesterday. So when you talk about a team that can stop the run, a team that's good in the trenches, Idaho State is that team, so I'll be interested to see what they look like. We'll talk about that in our preview show on Thursday, but you guys let me know what you thought about this Montana State victory. I thought it was a very valiant effort. I thought it was a really, really good win for Montana State. I thought they looked really good, and I think they're still the top defense in the Big Sky Conference. And honestly, after watching Montana State through the first weeks of the season, I think this is one of the top units in the country, because if you look at their FCS numbers and what they have done against FCS competition, they've played really, really, really good football. So food for thought for you going into this new week. But Montana State looks good. They're still a top team in the Big Sky Conference and still a top team in the country. You guys let me know what you thought about Montana State's ranked victory against NAU in the comments down below, and I will move on. Hey, next I want to talk about UC Davis versus Cal Poly. Cal Poly gave UC Davis everything they could handle in this game. It looked like they were about to have an upset in mind, but UC Davis was able to weather the storm. Caden Pennick played really, really well. I mean, man, Caden Pennick made a throw in this game, and I actually have the video pulled up here, and I want to show it. But this touchdown from Caden Pennick was just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So I'm going to pull it up right here. We got it right here. Let's watch this. Rolling out to his right. Getting hit. Perfectly delivered into the back of the end zone. Are you kidding me? What? Yo. Nah, Caden Pennick is getting better and better each week. And this is one of those throws where it's just like, wow. I mean, wow. Wow. Just absolutely ridiculous. And I've said for a couple of weeks now that I thought Caden Pennick has been playing like a freshman at times. Yesterday, he played really, really good football. 21 for 26, 81% completion percentage, 313 yards. That's a career high. 3 touchdowns. On the ground, he had 11 carries, 60 yards, 1 touchdown, 5.5 yards a carry. So he accounted for 373 yards of offense, 4 touchdowns, and he was extremely efficient in the passing game. So obviously, Cal Poly didn't go away softly, but Caden Pennick did everything he could to make sure that this UC Davis squad came down with a victory. So, I mean, impressive victory. Cal Poly obviously isn't ranked. They've been receiving votes, so a lot of people around the country, a lot of pundits and people who, journalists, writers, think that this Cal Poly team deserves maybe to be ranked in the bottom 20 to 25. Maybe after that loss to UC Davis, maybe not necessarily, but they did. I mean, if UC Davis is a top 10 football team, and Cal Poly was able to push them to the limit, what does that say about Cal Poly? I don't know, but I think it's really good for the Big Sky Conference. More than anything, I think it's really good for the Big Sky Conference if Cal Poly is good, if Northern Colorado is good, all of those teams. NAU is good. So I think that bodes well. If Idaho State even gets better, that's really good for the Big Sky Conference. But UC Davis is looking good. And I feel like, we talk about UC Davis, but I feel like they're kind of going under the radar. And I know under the radar for a team that made the quarterfinals last season is crazy, but I feel like UC Davis necessarily isn't getting that attention. And yes, they're winning, but it's probably because they haven't been particularly dominant. They haven't dominated any of their opponents. The first game of the season that we saw them play, they were losing. They were up, but they were struggling in the second half, and a team was coming back on them in Mercer. And Mercer now looks really good. I think Mercer's 4-1, undefeated against the FCS. I mean, Mercer is looking like they're going to be the AQ out of that SoCon conference. They're probably going to be a seeded team if they continue to win. And that's the thing about this UC Davis squad, and that's the frustration, is because had UC Davis beat them, as Mercer continues to win, you start to look at that game and it's like, oh no, this is like, you look at some of the marquee wins on a team's schedule, and it's like you would have been able to point to that Mercer game. Like, no. Like, look, they beat this Mercer team who won the SoCon, and maybe the SoCon ends up being a really good conference this season. Furman's looking pretty good. Western Carolina's looking decent. Like, they got some teams in that conference. But if Mercer is to go on to win that conference, and that game against UC Davis doesn't count, that is a damper against UC Davis, and that doesn't look good on UC Davis. So it ultimately hurts them in the long run. But man, UC Davis, Caden Pennick, I've been very impressed. And this is what happens. I know I keep talking about it with Montana. I know I've talked about it a few times with UC Davis, but this is why, if you know you have a promising young prospect at quarterback, you play him. If you think he is the future, if you think he has the tools to be able to be your guy long term, you play him as a young guy, whether that's a freshman, true freshman, redshirt freshman, sophomore, it doesn't matter. If you think he has the ability to be able to take you guys to the next level, you play that man. UC Davis has done that with Caden Pennick, and he's responded fabulously. I mean, they put him in the role. They gave him the keys to the vehicle, and he's driven it beautifully. They're 4-1, undefeated against the FCS. They should be 5-1. If they should have another game on their schedule, whether that was a win or a loss. I think they would have come out with the victory in that game, but 5-1 they should be, and you'd be probably talking about a top 5 UC Davis squad had they been 5-1. Maybe definitely top 10. I think top 5. Because they were like 7 or 8 or 9 coming into the season. If their only loss was to UW, they would have just continued to win. So you'd probably be talking about top 6 or 7 teams out of the Big Sky Conference in the top 7, 6 or 7. But one thing that's interesting about UC Davis this season, they've been really good on the ground. Carter Vargas and Jordan Fisher have been really, really good. But the receiving game has been interesting to say the least. They haven't had an 100-yard receiver this season. They've had one 100-yard receiver this season. And it was Samuel Batu last week against Weber State. But outside of that, Batu led them against Utah Tech. I think Batu might have been close to 100 in Mercer, but we'll never know because the stats don't actually exist. Against Washington, their leading receiver, that might have been a UW receiver, but Batu had 45 against Southern Utah, a game that they won, but he didn't have a super big game. They ran the ball really, really well in that game. Last week, Batu had 112, and then in this game against Cal Poly, Stacey Dobbins had 89 receiving yards. So something I'm paying attention to is the effectiveness or lack thereof of the UC Davis receivers. Now, you don't have to have an 100-yard receiver to say, oh, this was an effective game. They're spreading the wealth. They have a lot of pass catchers. They have a lot of things that they do in that UC Davis offense that get a lot of guys open. So it doesn't necessarily mean just because they haven't had a ton of 100-yard receivers that they're not having success, because clearly Samuel Batu has had success. Carter Vargas has had success in the receiving game. Those tight ends has had success. Ian Simpson had a really big reception yesterday. So, yeah, I mean, that isn't the end all be all, but it's just something that I'm keyed into. Another thing that I wanted to mention, Rex Connors. I don't even know if Porter Connors played yesterday. I didn't see a defensive stat for him. I'm not sure if he played or not, but I know definitively Rex Connors did not play. He's dealing with a knee injury. I don't know what the nature of that knee injury is. I wasn't finding any reports online when I was doing some research, but that is a something to pay attention to. The leading tackler in the history of the UC Davis football program, and he's just a leader on this team. I believe he's a captain. He's been a multiple-time All-American. He's been multiple-time All-Conference. Like, I think he was picked as the Big Sky Defensive Player of the Year, preseason Big Sky Defensive Player of the Year in the Big Sky Conference. So Rex Connors not playing affects this defense, and it affects this team. I don't know how big that effect will be, but I know 100% the loss of Rex Connors will have an effect on this team. And I think we saw a little bit of that yesterday. I mean, they gave up 30, or what was it? They gave up 27 to Cal Poly. Now Cal Poly is a formidable opponent, and they are good. They have good quarterback, Bo Kelly. Ty Diefenbach is good too. They switch quarterbacks. Their receiver Tyrell Washington had a good game, I believe, last week. Their running back, but then the receiver Michael Briscoe is good. Their defense definitely is not a slouch at all. I mean, they can stand up with the best of the best teams. So I mean, Cal Poly is definitely, and I said this too. If there was ever a team, me and Keenan talked about this last week when we were recapping Montana versus Idaho. But if any team is going to lose to Cal Poly, I thought it would have been that UC Davis team. Now, obviously they won. It was a close one, but I think they won pretty handedly. Throughout that second half, they played a really, really good football game. I don't know, man. Montana State got them in the next couple of games. For Cal Poly's next couple of games, there's a bye week in there. But, hey, Cal Poly is trying to ruin somebody's season. I don't know whose it's going to be, but I think Cal Poly's trying to play upsetter here. And if there was ever a team, it's Montana. Obviously, Tim Rosenbaugh, the offensive coordinator, is there, but we're not going to get into that. Really good game from UC Davis. They continue to win. They continue to be impressive. They're now 4-1. They're undefeated in conference play with 2 conference wins. They don't necessarily have a ranked victory on their schedule right now. They don't have any ranked wins on the season. So their first ranked win could come by way of Northern Arizona next week. So that'll be a game to pay attention to. They play Idaho later on in the season, Montana State and Sacramento State. So UC Davis has not yet gotten to the bulk of their conference season, but they will be there very, very soon. So that's something to monitor. But as it stands right now, UC Davis is 4-1. They're one of the top 10 teams in the country, and they look good. Caden Pinnock is improving every week. Rex Connors' injury is something to pay attention to. That defense is something to pay attention to and monitor as we go and move throughout this conference season. But they're looking good. They're undefeated against the FCS, and they move on to another week against a ranked opponent in NAU. You guys let me know what you think about UC Davis in the comment section down below, and I will move on. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is North Dakota State versus Illinois State. I felt like Illinois State is the first team to make North Dakota State look normal. They definitely were the first team to really have serious success against that North Dakota State defense. 33-16 was the final score. It was close all the way throughout. I mean, Illinois State was within striking distance throughout this game. But what I believe that North Dakota State defense eventually wore down that Illinois State offense. But Tommy Rittenhouse was 20 for 35, 191 yards, a touchdown and an interception. On the other side of things, Cole Payton was extremely efficient. Cole Payton was 12 for 14, 86% completion percentage. Not as good as Teron Dickens at Western Carolina, but still really, really good. 194 passing yards, 1 touchdown. On the ground, he had 15 carries, 79 yards, a touchdown, 5.3 yards a carry. Cole Payton continues to look good. He continues to impress. That Walter Payton Award race is heating up. There's a lot of names starting to pop up in that Walter Payton Award watch list. I'm obviously not a voter of that, but there are a lot of people that are starting to stand out. Teron Dickens, Cole Payton being one of them. There's some other players across the country as well. Barika Pinu, 14 carries, 116 yards, 1 touchdown, 8.3 yards a carry. It was a really, I felt like this was I thought that this game was going to be a blowout. So credit to Illinois State. They impressed me. Obviously they lost, but they still looked manageable in this game. Now, obviously that Missouri Valley is a gauntlet this year. You look at the Missouri Valley right now, Illinois State, South Dakota State, North Dakota, Southern Illinois, Illinois State. Did I say North Dakota? South Dakota's not a slouch. South Dakota State is in that conference. Let's name them off. NDSU, SDSU, UND, South Dakota. Let's just name all the Dakotas. Let's name both the Illinois. Southern Illinois, Illinois State. 6 teams. Youngstown State. I forgot about one. Youngstown State. 7 teams in that conference who can rightfully beat you on any given Saturday. Now, I think South Dakota is probably the least of all those teams, but the top 6, North Dakota is no slouch. I think, and this might be a hot take, I think North Dakota is the second best team in the Missouri Valley this year. I think North Dakota is the second best team in the Missouri Valley. I think South Dakota State is good. I don't think their quarterback is good enough right now for them where they want to be. But we're talking about North Dakota State. Cole Payton looked really good. Barika Pinu looked really good. Jackson Williams looked really good. North Dakota State, I mean, this is the type of test that you want a team like North Dakota State to have. If you're a North Dakota State fan, you're like, oh, that was a good test for us. We passed. We won the game. We got out with the victory. But it was a good test, man. Was this game at home or was it on the road? I believe this game was on the road, wasn't it? Yeah. This game was on the road in Illinois. So first road test for North Dakota State. They passed with flying colors. They got tested. I don't know if they were ever down in this game. They were down 2-0. They might have been down 9-7 at one point, but I think for the most part, once they got the lead, they never yielded the lead. But really, really phenomenal test for North Dakota State. Illinois State is better than I gave them credit for. Illinois State is giving better than I gave them credit for. I thought this was going to be a blowout. I thought North Dakota State was going to run them off the field. I didn't think Illinois State had been tested, and I was right. They hadn't been tested. But after playing against what I think is the unequivocal best team in the country in North Dakota State, they changed my mind about some things. They had 300 yards of offense. They were able to run the ball for 130 yards on the ground. North Dakota State on the other end of things had 216 yards on the ground, but passing yards, they were really good. 4 for 7 on third down for North Dakota State, 7 for 13 on third down for Illinois State, so not terrible. North Dakota State did not attempt the 4th down. They were 1 for 3 on Illinois State side of things. The passing numbers, Rittenhouse was a little inefficient. He threw for 20 for 35, so I think I don't have the percentage right in front of me, but that's probably near upper 50s completion percentage. Yards per pass, Cole Payton was 13.9. Illinois State was 5.5. Rittenhouse was 5.5. So, and that's really the thing that hurt this Illinois State squad, which is something to pay attention to if you're North Dakota State. There was some sloppiness from North Dakota State in this game, some missed PATs, missed field goals, blocked field goals, whatever you want to call it. I don't think North Dakota State had any turnovers. No, they didn't have any turnovers, and that's where they were good at. On the Illinois State side of things, they had 2 turnovers. The North Dakota State team, and I say it every year, when you're playing against the best team in the country, you have to play your best football. You have to take care of the ball. I mean, first off, your offense has to be successful. Your defense has to be successful. I mean, being able to move the ball and stop the other team's offense is huge. But also taking care of the football, not giving them any free plays. Penalties, they were good. North Dakota State was 2 for 15 yards. Illinois State was 3 for 15 penalties. Time of possession, Illinois State led 30 minutes. North Dakota State had 29 minutes. They were basically the same, but similarities there. But I mean, it really comes down to the turnovers for me. Illinois State had a lot of opportunities in that game. The turnovers are going to hurt you. North Dakota State can run the ball, so they can run the ball. Chew clock. Cole Payton can run the ball and hurt you with his legs as well. So there's just a lot that they can hit you with. They have the best receiver in the country in Bryce Lance, I believe. So, I mean, there's just a lot that they can do on that side of things. And they're a wagon. North Dakota State is a wagon. But I do think Illinois State was the first team that made North Dakota State look normal. Like before then, and obviously the competition level was not up to snuff. But before then, I was of the belief that North Dakota State, there was no team that was going to be able to measure up to North Dakota State. Now, I still don't believe there's a team that has shown that they can beat this North Dakota State team yet. There's not a team yet that I've seen that plays good offense, good defense as consistently and as well as North Dakota State. They just play defense at a very, very high level. They're very sound. They hustle. They give effort. I mean, they run to the ball. All of the things you want to see from a really, really good defense, North Dakota State does at a really, really high level. So I've been very impressed with them. But like I said, there is some stiff competition. Stiff competition in the Missouri Valley. I put this in my notes. I said, I don't know how many teams out of that conference will get into the playoffs, but whoever makes it out will be battle tested. Let's just go find the Missouri composite football schedule, and let's talk about just what is going on in that Missouri Valley Football Conference. Their schedule is an absolute gauntlet. So next week, next week on October 11th, you got Northern Iowa. You got South Dakota versus Indiana State. You got Northern Iowa versus South Dakota State. Probably not a great game. Southern Illinois versus North Dakota State. Great game. Youngstown State versus North Dakota. Great game. And then you got Illinois State versus Murray State. But I'm just saying, like, Southern Illinois, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, North Dakota State, Youngstown State, North Dakota, Illinois State. I mean, they have some heavy hitters in that conference, and they're going to beat up on each other. It definitely, now I don't know if North Dakota State's the one to get the losses, South Dakota State's the one to get the losses, but whoever comes out of the Missouri Valley is going to be battle tested. Saturday, October 18th, North Dakota State versus Indiana State, South Dakota versus Northern Iowa, North Dakota versus Southern Illinois. You got Youngstown State versus Illinois State. Those are the two big ones, North Dakota, Southern Illinois, and Youngstown State versus Illinois State. Let's take it to the next week. North Dakota State on October 25th. North Dakota State versus South Dakota State. Heavy hitter. Illinois State versus South Dakota. Could be a good game. North Dakota, and then there's not too many great ones. But then later on in the season that year, on November 1st, you got North Dakota State versus Youngstown State. And I believe North Dakota and South Dakota State might play this season too. It doesn't seem like they have the rest of the composite schedule on here. But either way, it's a gauntlet in the Missouri Valley. Nobody can sleep on anybody. You have to bring your lunch pail every week. But this North Dakota State team is still the top team in the country to me. They've still looked like it. They've still played like it. Although they bumped their head, this is what you will see when a team is a top team in the country. They can bump their head and still win by multiple scores, still look dominant in the end, and still, I mean, that is what a win like that should look against a ranked opponent, a top 10 ranked opponent currently at the time. They looked really, really good. I don't want to say they looked really, really good because I'm getting ahead of myself, but they looked good in the midst of turmoil, in the midst of adversity. North Dakota State was still able to weather the storm and get the win. Now, maybe I'm starting to sound like a North Dakota State homer. Maybe I'm starting to sound like a guy who's drinking the Kool-Aid in North Dakota State. I don't know, but I think this team is really good. I think I want, like I said, I will give Illinois State credit. They've looked better than what I was willing to give them credit for. But I like both squads. I think both squads look good. I think the Missouri Valley looks good, and they're going to get some teams that are tough outs out of that Missouri Valley football conference. So for the Big Sky Conference teams, it's very important that they get home field advantage because you don't want to be going to any Missouri Valley sites to play these teams because they are now, obviously you're going to have to go to North Dakota State. You might have to go to South Dakota State, but if you're the Montana States and the Montanas and maybe even the UC Davises, you need to win as much as you can throughout this bulk of the season so that you can get a high seed, and play as many possible games at home. You guys let me know what you thought about this North Dakota State versus Illinois State game. Cole Payton looks really, really good. Barika Pinu looks really, really good. They're still the top team in the Missouri Valley, still the top team in the country, and they showed that yesterday. You guys let me know what you think about that in the comments down below, and I will move on. Okay, the last game I want to talk about at length is South Dakota State versus Youngstown State. And I early on in the season, when I did my red shirt sports poll, and I had Youngstown State down there in the bottom 20 to 25. But then after watching them play a couple of weeks, I was like, they're probably not necessarily ranked right now. I can't remember if Youngstown State was ranked, and I'm gonna look it up right now. I can't remember if Youngstown State was ranked in this most recent poll. Were they? I think they were. Yeah. So they were ranked 24 this past week. So they are a ranked team, and that gives South Dakota State their third ranked win of the season, which is the most of any team in the conference in the country. So I am gonna get on here and talk down on not talk down on South Dakota State, but They don't look perfect. South Dakota State does not look perfect. They don't look like the team of the most previous seasons. In particular, Chase Mason doesn't look as good as, now obviously Mark Gronowski was a difference maker. I'm not trying to compare Chase Mason to Mark Gronowski, but Chase Mason isn't playing to the level that Mark Gronowski was playing to. Now, he is not Mark Gronowski. They're two different players. Mark Gronowski had a ton of time on task. Chase Mason is still trying to get his legs underneath him, but he didn't play strong yesterday. 48% completion percentage on 14 to 29 passes, 189 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. All of that to be said, South Dakota State is still undefeated. They're still 5-0, and they have the most ranked wins out of any team in the country. So for all the things that you could say about South Dakota State, for all the problems that you could have with this South Dakota State squad, for all the things that you could debate about, maybe they're not a championship team, maybe they're not necessarily a contender, yada yada yada, whatever you want to say about the South Dakota State squad, whatever I want to say about the South Dakota State squad, they are 5-0. They are undefeated, and they have the most ranked wins of any team in the country. Point blank, period, full stop. So, yes, I thought that South Dakota State struggled yesterday. Yes, I don't think they've looked the greatest this season. Yes, I have some worries about, wow, the Vikings just stunned the Browns. Yes, I have some worries about Chase Mason and his ability to really have an effect on the game, because when you think about how Chase Mason played yesterday, what does he do when they aren't able to run the ball? That is my biggest question. What does he do when they aren't able to run the ball? And I'm looking up the numbers right now because they did run the ball very successfully. And Julius Loffridge, boy, oh boy. Julius Loffridge is a demon. And I don't even mean that for anybody who's religious. I'm not meaning to disrespect your religion. I say it funnily, but like, Julius Loffridge is a problem. 25 carries, 176 yards, 4 touchdowns. Are you freaking kidding me? How many yards of carry did he have? 7 yards a carry. I mean, and this is the guy, you know, he's the running back. You know, he's the guy. They're keying in on him, and he is still extremely, extremely effective. I mean, come on. So, but to get back to my South Dakota State point, for all of the problems that you can point out about this team, in particular Chase Mason, and I don't want to harp on him, this is still a really good football team. South Dakota State receiving too. You have Lofton Ogroski, who I don't think played yesterday. I think he's either dealing with a concussion or I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but I don't think he played yesterday. Alex Bullock just picked up exactly where he left off. 10 receptions, 162 yards, no touchdowns, but 160 yards. I mean, they still have a ton of talent on this team. Their running back is really, really good. Their receiving core is really good because Lofton Ogroski is good, Alex Bullock is good, and Graham Goring is good as well. So there's been a ton of players who have showed up in this South Dakota State offense that can make plays. On the other side of things for Youngstown State, Bo Brungard, my goodness, 29 of 44, 275 yards, 3 passing touchdowns on the ground, 22 carries, 130 yards, and a touchdown. Hey. Bo Brungard, I saw some people talking about, hey, maybe he should be like in the conversation for Walter Payton Award. Yeah, maybe you can put him on the watch list. But winning matters. And one game doesn't dictate a Walter Payton Award. I don't know about that. I pumped the brakes on the Walter Payton Award, but he played really, really well against a really good defense, against a really good, highly ranked football team. Youngstown State showed up, and they showed that they deserve to be in the conversation. They're going to be a problem for anybody who's trying to come and beat them. And you don't just sleep on Youngstown State. You're not going to be able to sleep on Youngstown State this year. They're going to bring their lunch pail every single week. Max Tomczak, 8 receptions, 92 yards, 3 touchdowns. Really strong game from him. Man, it was a testy Saturday for a lot of football teams yesterday, and this is what I put in my notes for this Youngstown State versus South Dakota State game. Either Youngstown State is a better team than people are ready to give them credit for, even myself included, or South Dakota State is not as good this season. I lean towards the latter, being that South Dakota State is not as good of a football team as they have been in previous seasons. Now, that doesn't mean they're not a good football team. I don't think they're as good as they've been in previous seasons, but they are still a formidable opponent. And I mean, they have 3 ranked wins. For all of the problems, for all of the issues, I think South Dakota State has looked incredibly sloppy this year. I don't think they've looked buttoned up at all times. Let's look at the penalty. Let's look at the team stats. 20 first downs for South Dakota State, 25 for Youngstown State. Now, if you watch the game, obviously, you have your own judgment of the game. I did watch the game. I was watching that game. I was watching the North Dakota State game. I watch all the games, man. I'm paying attention. I am paying attention. Third down efficiency, South Dakota State was 6 for 14. Youngstown State was 4 for 13. On fourth down, South Dakota State was 0 for 2. Youngstown State was 1 for 1. Total yards, South Dakota State 405. Youngstown State 431. Passing, South Dakota State 189. Youngstown State 275. Rushing, South Dakota State 216. Youngstown State 156. Little discrepancy there, not a huge discrepancy. Penalties, 7 for 43 for South Dakota State, 7 for 60 for Youngstown State. Time of possession, 29 and a half minutes for South Dakota State, 30 and a half minutes for Youngstown State, and each team had 1 turnover. So not too overweighted in the numbers. The third down percentage is one that I see for Youngstown State that probably hold them back. And then obviously too, against a team that is better than you, you can't afford to have any turnovers. So you can't tie in the turnover game, and penalty wise as well. You can't have more penalty yardage than your opponent. You got to play a clean game. Was this game at home? I think this game was actually on the road for South Dakota State, wasn't it? I think it was. Yeah, it was in Youngstown, Ohio. So statistically, the teams are pretty evenly matched. And Youngstown State is a team that people do not need to sleep on. Do not sleep on this Youngstown State team. I think they're gonna surprise a lot of people this year. I think they've already surprised a lot of people. They're 3-2 currently. But I think they could get some upsets this year, like against the North Dakota. I think they're better than South Dakota. I think they could potentially beat Illinois State, Southern Illinois. I mean, there's a lot of meat in that Missouri Valley Football Conference schedule, and I think Youngstown State can do some things within it. Chase Mason, man, he's really the key for me. Maybe he just had a bad game. He did have 5 carries, 40 yards, 8 yards to carry on the ground. But I don't think they're a top 2 team in the Missouri Valley currently. I think it's North Dakota. I think it's North Dakota State and then North Dakota in that Missouri Valley Conference for me. The one thing that would keep South Dakota State above anybody in that conference currently would be the fact that they have 3 conference wins. Now, obviously, they're still going to be a top-ranked team. They're going to be number 2 in the country. I mean, you can't move them after getting another ranked win. There's no way you can move them down. They are the second best team in the country per their resume. Their resume, they have, honestly, if you're looking at resumes, South Dakota State has the best resume in the country. So say what you want about how they've looked for the eye test. They are 5-0 and they have 3 ranked victories. One against Montana State, who's still a top 3, top 4 team in the country. One against Youngstown State, which, whatever. And then one against Sac State. So maybe you can look at the nature of the ranked victories. Sure. But they have 3 ranked victories. If you're looking at it from a resume standpoint, they have 5 FCS victories, 3 of them being ranked victories. And, they've looked good throughout. So, yes, they haven't looked perfect. I don't think they've looked perfect, but let's look at South Dakota State's last 5 games of the season. NDSU, Indiana State, South Dakota, Illinois State, and North Dakota. So, South Dakota State will be able to, dilly-dally around throughout the first couple parts of this conference schedule, but once they get to the latter part of the conference schedule, we are really going to see this South Dakota State team get tested. NDSU, Indiana State, South Dakota, Illinois State, and North Dakota. Now, do I believe Indiana State and South Dakota will necessarily be big tests for them? Not necessarily, but NDSU, Illinois State, and North Dakota, all Illinois State and North Dakota to finish the season? Come on, man. That is a vicious end of the season. So I'll be interested to see how they finish off the season this year. But they are 5-0. They have 3 ranked victories. The best resume on paper of any FCS team currently. And that's what it is. They're still undefeated. They continue to win. So until somebody beats them, I don't know. I don't know what you want me to say. But you guys let me know what you think about this South Dakota State team in the comments down below. And I will move on. Okay, I'm starting something new called No-Huddle Notes. As we get into the thick of the FCS season, I want to talk about some things that are going on around the rest of the FCS. What's happening on this side. I don't always get enough time to talk about all the games in the FCS. I'm always going to cover the big names in the FCS, the Montana States, the Montanas, the North Dakota States, the South Dakota States, and any other but this is where we get to cover some of the big news in the FCS, things that are happening. Anything noteworthy happened over the weekend, we'll talk about it. So this is called No-Huddle Notes. First things first, Sac State president said on the Grizz Fan Pod that Sac State will be playing 2026 in the FCS no matter what. He goes on to say, in November, we'll announce exactly what we're doing, but if you were to ask me today, I'm pretty confident we'll be announcing that we're a part of a new FBS conference. My man, you gotta slow your roll. Like, I don't know what conversations he is having. I don't know what new FBS conference is going to be happening, but yo, why are we still talking about this? Can we just let things play out? You should let us find out about it. Let us find out about it. Now, if they're going FBS, all by all means, I want them to succeed. I want them to be where they want to be, all that stuff. I have no problem with them, but it's the talking for me, man. Like, you did this over the offseason in January. You said you guys were going to FBS, and you're not FBS. A lot of people were waiting throughout the offseason to see where you guys were going, and ultimately you got denied. So just let things play out. Just let things play out. Next, Tarleton State survives a close one against Southern Utah, which still only has one win on the season. Tarleton won the shootout 52-42, which was a good win at home. They stay undefeated. They are 6-0 now, so they have one of the most wins in the FCS. I don't think a ton of teams have played 6 games. But they're 6-0. They look really good. Did they play week 0? Was that why they have another game? I can't remember, but Tarleton State looks really, really good. My question is, how will this team look against stiffer UAC competition? And even more importantly, how will this team look against the upper echelon of the FCS, the NDSUs, the Montana States, the SDSUs, the Lehighs, all of those teams that are in the top 10 of the FCS? How would Tarleton State look against those teams? That's the question. Obviously, we'll see them in UAC conference play. They may end up running the table in the UAC, and we won't ever get to see a real test from them until they get to the playoffs. But Tarleton State remains undefeated. They won a shootout against Southern Utah. There we go. West Georgia loses their first game against Austin Peay in a ranked matchup on the road. Still a good team, but rightfully ranked outside the top 15. I think West Georgia's good. I think Austin Peay's good. Those are 2 teams in the UAC. I don't know if Tarleton State will play them, but there are good teams in the UAC conference. West Georgia is one of them. Austin Peay is another one of them. So they are teams that deserve your attention, deserve the respect. Austin Peay has an FBS victory on the season, so that looks really, really good. I think they got a few playoff teams in that UAC conference. We'll see how things shake out. But West Georgia is still a formidable opponent. Them losing to Austin Peay doesn't mean they're a bad team. Them losing to Austin Peay does not really mean anything to me. It means something to me, but it doesn't mean that you write them off. I think they're a formidable team who deserves respect. But maybe it's time to take a little step back. Harvard has looked like a really, really good team. If you haven't been paying attention to Harvard, please go look at them. No team has rushed for over 100 yards on Harvard. I said this on Twitter last night or yesterday during midday, but Harvard hasn't allowed an 100-yard rusher this season. No team has rushed for over 100 yards on them, and run-stopping wins in the playoffs. Now, how much will this Harvard team be tested in their Ivy League schedule? I don't know, but they look really, really good. They haven't scored less than 40 points in any game. They scored 41. They scored 59, and I think they scored 50-something. They've scored 50 twice and 40 once. But they put up a ton of points. I think the toughest games on their schedule are Dartmouth and Yale. But they will not truly be tested into the playoffs if they get that Ivy automatic qualifying bid. But Harvard is a team that you need to be paying attention to. Harvard is a team that deserves your attention. Harvard is a team that deserves your time. So please pay attention to Harvard. They're not playing around with anybody in the FCS this year. Rhode Island loses to Brown on the road. A devastating loss for Rhode Island and the Roadies. They were ranked number 8. I think this is going to make them slide tremendously in the polls. I think they'd be near 18, 19, 20. I think that's where they should be slotted after this loss. I mean, Brown was unranked. I think Brown already had a loss in the season. It's just not a good loss. Not a good loss. And yet another questionable season for Rhode Island. They are a team that's hard to judge. I mean, extremely hard to judge this team right now. I don't know whether they're up or they're down. I don't know what the nature of the CAA is. We saw this Rhode Island team last year get into the playoffs. I believe they were undefeated, or they only had one loss going to the playoffs last year. And then they just... It was a fraudulent record in the first place. There's not a lot of tough competition in the CAA. Well, obviously Monmouth is in the CAA. New Hampshire's not a slouch. There's good competition in the CAA. But as their schedule was constructed last year, you could tell that they were going to be a team that's like, okay, they're undefeated, they're one loss, whatever. When they get in the playoffs, that's when we'll really get to see them be tested. So Rhode Island loses a game on the road to Brown, a team they definitely shouldn't have lost, a game they definitely shouldn't have lost. And now it's leaving a bunch of question marks on top of them. Lehigh and Tennessee Tech remain undefeated this season. Tennessee Tech has looked more dominant, but both teams are teams to pay attention to. Tennessee Tech is in that OVC. Lehigh is in that Patriot League. Both teams look like they're headed to getting the automatic qualifying bid and looking to be seeds in the playoffs this year. Obviously, we're only midway through the season, but Tennessee Tech has put up a ton of points. They've looked really, really good. Now, they haven't played a lick of stiff competition, so that's something that you need to pay attention to. Lehigh, I believe, is kind of in the same boat. I don't know if Lehigh has not looked as dominant, and they haven't even played any stiff competition, but Lehigh is undefeated, as well as Tennessee Tech is undefeated. So say what you want about the teams they've played. They're both undefeated, and they're both teams to pay attention to. Lehigh in the Patriot League, probably going to get that AQ. We'll see who's going to test them. I don't think anybody in the Patriot is going to test Lehigh. So Lehigh is another team where we're going to have to wait until the end of the season to see what they look like. And then Tennessee Tech, I think there's maybe, Gardner Webb is maybe in that Big South OVC. I don't know who's in that I don't know the Big South OVC without having it right in front of me to know who's really going to test them. But I don't know if Tennessee Tech will get tested in the regular season either. So, but definitely a team to pay attention to. Monmouth won against Delaware State in a high-scoring game. Caden Bennett, the quarterback at Delaware State. Derek Robertson, the quarterback at Monmouth. Obviously, Deshaun Jackson is the head coach of Delaware State. I think they're 3-3 now, or maybe 3-2, 4-2, or I don't know where Delaware State necessarily is. But Derek Robertson has looked really, really good. He's throwing the ball all over the yard. He's got a ton of weapons on the outside. They have offense. Where is the defense, man? Where is the defense? Where the hell is the defense, man? Monmouth, another team in that CAA conference that is a worthy opponent. So when I was talking about Rhode Island, I don't know if they play. The CAA is so big, all of the teams cannot play. There's either 16 or 17 teams in that conference, but there's a ton of teams in the CAA. Monmouth looks really, really good. They look like one of the top CAA teams, but they do not play defense. You will not win a national championship without defense. Now, they could get a CAA championship. They could be a highly seeded team going into the playoffs. They could look really, really good. But defense wins championships, man. And when they run into a team that can stop their offense, and they can stop their offense, but they can move the ball against Monmouth's defense, that is when you're going to see them crack. So pay attention to them. They look really good. Their quarterback is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, talent-wise and statistically. But their defense is suspect, very, very suspect, to say the least. To finish off the No-Huddle Notes, we got Teron Dickens, who had a record-breaking performance against Wofford, but were they empty calories? That's my question. Because despite starting the game 46 of 46, which is an NCAA and an FCS record, and ending 53 for 56, I think he completed 94% of his passes, they still barely won the game against Wofford, who was defeated. Wofford is 0-5. And they won that game 23-21. So I've seen a lot of people talk about Teron Dickens should be in the Walter Payton Award watch list. He should be a finalist. He should be in. Should he though? I mean, 46 for 46. He didn't throw for 500 yards. He didn't throw a crazy amount of touchdowns. It was an amazing performance. It was super impressive. And I hear you, Zach. I'm talking to Zach McKinnell at the FCS Blue Bloods. He played good ball. He looks good. The team has looked good. But I got to side with Reddit FCS on this topic. And if you guys watch Reddit, if you guys pay attention to Reddit FCS, he's been talking about this Western Carolina football squad. And he's been saying, yes, they look good. Yes, Teron Dickens has been a difference maker. But they still don't look like a dominant football team. Wofford is 0-5, and they won by 2. Your quarterback went 46 of 46, and he threw for, I think he had 2 touchdown passes. I mean, when you see a guy go 53 for 56, you're throwing the ball 50 times. A majority of the passes were under 5 yards. Flat routes, swing routes, screens, quick receiver screens, bubbles. I mean, all of it. Yes, it was an impressive performance. Yes, it was a record-breaking performance, but there was a lot of empty calories. And I think we need to pump the brakes on talking about him with the Walter Payton Award, because I don't vote on the award. I am not a Walter Payton Award voter, but I think winning must play a factor. If you're unequivocally the best offensive player in FCS football, you contribute to winning. Michael Wortham, as much as you guys probably don't want to hear it, especially with that Grizz jersey over my shoulder, Michael Wortham affects winning. Go watch that Idaho State game. He is statistically, he tears up the stats, but also he affects winning. He makes winning plays. Cole Payton affects winning. He's extremely efficient. He's good through the air. He's good on the ground with his legs, and he affects winning. So when we're starting to get in the meat and the potatoes of the season. We're starting to talk about the Walter Payton Award. We're going to start talking about a lot of awards. With the award talk, does this person affect winning? Now, obviously, Western Carolina has been winning with Teron Dickens, so that is something to pay attention to. But let's pump the brakes on, this guy's crazy. It was a lot of empty calories. I am paying attention now. That's for sure. With Teron Dickens, my eyes are glued. I'm paying attention to him. I see him. But hey, man, let's relax with the Walter Payton Award. Let's see 3-4 more weeks. Then we can really get into some serious Walter Payton Award talk. And personally, I think Cole Payton should be leading that right now. But we'll talk. We can talk more and more as the weeks go on. But you guys, let me know what you thought about No-Huddle Notes. You guys, let me know what you thought about this segment. Leave me a comment down below, and I will move on.
Yo, Tara, what up, E?
What's going on? Man, those are some nice medals.
Yeah, man, these are hard to come by.
Yeah, well, I've got 2 of them.
Well, that's nothing like going to March Madness, though.
We did go to a national championship.
Okay, guys, whatever. Let's just get on the Montana party bus and head over to Press Box for lunch.
Yeah.
Nuanez Now and Skyline Sports, covering Montana athletics and the Big Sky Conference better than anybody. The Montana Party Bus and the Press Box are also proud supporters of Montana athletes.
Hey, cheers to you guys, man. Cheers to Montana. Cheers to chasing more championships.
Okay, I want to do a quick look ahead to Week 7 in FCS football. We got number 1 NDSU versus Southern Illinois. I don't know where they're going to be ranked, so I didn't put it on there. But we got North Dakota versus Youngstown State as well. We got Montana versus Cal Poly. Cal Poly not ranked, but that's going to be a big game. Homecoming. Montana is top 5 ranked team, and Cal Poly's been playing good football. They upset Sac State a couple of weeks ago. They put UC Davis to the test, and Montana's next on their schedule, so we will see. UC Davis versus NAU. That should be a ranked matchup. I don't think NAU will fall out of the top 25. I think they'll still be ranked. So UC Davis versus NAU should be a ranked game. Exciting. And then lastly, you got Rhode Island versus New Hampshire. Rhode Island just bumped their head. Can they get right back to ship against New Hampshire? Or is this a game where, Rhode Island, we saw the chink in Rhode Island's armor last week against Brown. Now New Hampshire is going to exploit it. We will see. But those are some top games going on in FCS football next week. Not many top games going on in FCS football next week. It's probably going to be a quiet week. But still, whenever football is being played, it's exciting. So you guys let me know what you think about some of those games in Week 7 in FCS football down below. And I will move on. Okay, I want to thank you guys so much for tapping into the channel. I appreciate you guys so much for viewing the channel. I thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to watch Akem'S analysis. I put a lot of time into studying. I put a lot of time into putting notes together. I put a lot of time in thinking about segments and things like that. So I appreciate you guys a ton for showing my channel love. We're over 2,000 subscribers and growing every single day. So help me get to 3,000 subscribers now. That is the next goal. Got some breakdowns coming on Tuesday if they've not already dropped on Monday. But I'm looking at the North Dakota State game. I'm looking at the South Dakota State game. I am looking at Montana versus Idaho State. And then I want to look at Montana State versus NAU as well. So some big games in FCS football. It's going to be exciting. Thank you guys for viewing the channel. Tell your friend about me. Tell your auntie about me. Tell your mother about me. Hit the like. Hit the subscribe. Leave me a comment down below. And I will catch you guys on Thursday for my preview show. See you later.